Hello people, this is the Drunkduck Quackcast. I'm Ozone Ocean and with me is Serene and Baines. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Today we're doing the Quackcast on mortality, mortis, death, all that kind of stuff, which is quite interesting. And because that was a topic that was brought up in the forums by was our theme song. Okay, so this is us back talking about mortality, but before we do that, I have to give you the featured comic. Featured comic this week was something that I brought to the table, and it's called the Demimon Hollow Town Syndrome. So I'll be telling you about that, the Demimon Hollow Town Syndrome. Hello, I am Ozone Ocean, and my feature was Demimon Hollow Town Syndrome. Where did all the children go? What's the mystery Ashley has to try and uncover when she journeys to a hidden town in search of the best Demimon? Something horrific and evil has cursed this place, and she very quickly finds herself caught up in it. Will her loyal Demimon Ahul be able to save her? Will it even want to? This is a horror parody of Pokemon, where the pocket monsters are actually demons and not trustworthy. The art is in black and white, and it has some colour. It has a significant manga influence, and the story is a horror parody, because it's a parody of Pokemon, which is a multimedia sensation across games and comics and animation and all kinds of things, movies and all over. But yeah, this is a parody, so totally different. It just sort of has the ghost of a theme of the original in there, and these demimons are rather scary because it's basically there's demons in this world. Anyway, have a look at it and enjoy it, and enjoy the scary mystery of Demimon Hollow Town Syndrome by Demimon, rated T. That was our featured comic. That was Demimon Hollow Town Syndrome. Okay, so after that, we doing the featured music. Gomulus has not provided a featured music this week, so we're doing a reissue of an old Gunwallace track. His theme to life and death. Light-hearted lyrics and classical vaudevillian comical ukulele mixed with synth in the best tradition of Flight of the Conchords. But this is Gunwallace. Originally from the 20th of February 2017 in Quackcast 311. Take it away, Gunwallace, with your theme to life and death.
Yo, listen up. Gonna drop some old school ukulele on y'all. Life and death, life and death. It's a little comic about life and death. One is death, the other is not. And sometimes they talk with God. Life and death, life and death. It's a little comic about life and death. One is death, the other is not. And sometimes they rap with God. Life and death, life and death. It's a little comic about life and death. One is death, the other is not. And sometimes they chat with God. Peace out.
And that was our featured music. So now we're going to talk about mortality. Memento.
Oh, dead.
What's that?
Oh, dead.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it's feeding back like crazy. Oh, and it's switching.
Oh dear. Yeah. Mortality is interesting. There used to be a lot more kind of obsession with mortality in the ancient days, or the old days at least. In the ancient days, basically, just go back to the times when they had pyramids. What are pyramids? Pyramids are basically a temple to a person's death. That's what it's about. Like a whole kingdom had to be involved in this kind of community project to construct these pyramids, and that was something where you'd remember that previous ruler by that. Egypt had this huge big focus around death, and a lot of cultures and religions had this. You have the cans in Britain and a whole lot of other places too. This big piles of stones. There's different names for them. A can is one of the names, but you have a big kind of thing that you've constructed with a dead person inside and stuff that they're to remember them. I don't know, to help them along in their afterlife. You have ceremonial armor and all this kind of stuff, or they bury entire ships. This whole idea that the Vikings would burn ships, but they also buried them as well. Entire ships buried for someone to have in their afterlife, and basically that was a huge focus of a lot of our culture was focused around death. I mean, Christianity is basically a Jewish death cult originally. It was focused around the fact that someone died, and you will also be saved when you die. So there's all that. There's death is
around.
focus.
No. It is around not someone that died. Someone that died then woke up again. The whole point is that he beat death. That's
True.
actually what it is all around. However, there are a lot of different sects and branches out that veer very much into death cult area. So, but the original, the OG point of all of this is he beat death. Do what he does, and you will also beat death.
Literally, he did. But say the early Christian cultists started worshipping this religion because these people were downtrodden, poor, the slaves, all this kind of thing, within Rome, and this Christianity offered them a kind of a way out, because this was like, okay, we're suffering now, but we're all going to be rewarded in death. So life is bearable now. We've got something to look forward to, something to strive for. We're all going to be rewarded. So from that perspective, that was their focus.
Yeah.
I mean, they would live again, but after they died.
For sure.
So
again, but that would go too much into theology. But for sure, it teaches that this current life is not as important as the next one. So you shouldn't invest in this life too much. You should invest in being able to get to the next life in the first place. So for sure. There are so many nuances though, and different creeds, different dogmas, and so many things that have been bent out of shape that for sure death cult is part of the whole thing, even though it shouldn't really be. But for sure.
Well, so there's that aspect of our culture that's death, but basically, death has always been a part of reality, basically, because you can't live forever, unfortunately. There is an end to things. We experience that all the time, and it's always been part of a culture, but it's been more a part of culture in the past than it is now, because we hide death. We put people in old people's homes. We have hospitals that can prolong life for a very long time. So childhood mortality is right down. It used to be massive, Now it's really, really low, and people actually live to old age, which they couldn't do in the past as much. It was quite rare. So death has been pushed to the side. So it's not as big a part of our culture as it has been in the past. But if you look at anything historical, you'll see, the times when there was plagues and things like that, and a skull and skeleton kind of symbology in so many different ways, because it was just a normal part of life. But yeah, now it's not. So we all have to come to it in our own way, I find. Much later in life, generally. If we're lucky. If you're not lucky,
Right.
it's an awareness of mortality comes a lot earlier, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, it can be it's pain, not to diminish the pain of that, obviously, but it can be a defining moment in people's lives. I think you're right. It's normally not a good thing to have that kind of thing happen too early to yourself or someone important. It can be so damaging. I have some friends who lost people very young and very hard on them for life. But having an understanding of mortality a little bit early can possibly be a positive in a way. It can make people realize that time is not unlimited.
Yes, true.
I would agree with that. I think our current modern society is way too terrified of death and doesn't acclimate people with it in any way. Especially, I have seen, of course, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I have seen a lot of Western style practices of death, especially United States, maybe even Canada, I don't know, that generally tend to whisk away the dead body from the family, from the mourners, and then you get to see it only laid out in a very weird, out of context way, in a sense. You are not allowed to consolidate your feelings and your sense of loss and your sense of, we are entering into this new era where this person is not going to be with us anymore, but you don't get the closure that you should get while you still have access to that person's body that they have left behind. And I think that is wrong, because it teaches you to be afraid of death in ways that you should, if that makes sense. I think that being able to experience the end of life without having a mystifying concept of oh my god, this is something, an aberration that's happening, that would be healing for a lot of people. But again, you have to be able to do that and not get freaked out, which is also something that can happen. So
there's a lot of theatre that surrounds death in a way, like you say, it whisks away. There's the whole mythology that is around cremation. So we think the common idea of cremation is you put someone in their elaborate coffin and you shoot them into this little hatch where there's all these flames and just burns the whole thing, and then you get ashes in the end in a little jar. But that's a total myth. That's all bullshit. It never happens like that. They take the person out of that fancy coffin so sometimes the person will go through that little hatch and everything like that, and then they'll just put the body into storage and won't even burn it. That has happened a few times. That funeral homes do that.
That's illegal, though.
Yeah, that's illegal. But when they do it, you take it out of the coffin, you burn the body, and there's massive amounts of things that don't burn, like skulls and bones and all this kind of stuff and prosthetics. And the ashes you get are like a small little part of that person. That's not the whole person's body. That's just the little bits that actually did manage to burn.
Oh,
There's all this
not
stuff
only
that gets
it's
chucked
not,
away.
it's not even just that, and I don't know if I mean I'm sure that the practice is common everywhere, but what happens is that you do get the bones as well. But what happens is that they take the bones out while they are extremely hot and all that from the burner or whatever it's called, and then they are put through a grinder, and they grind all the bones down into dust that goes together with the ashes, and
That's
that's what we get.
horrific. Yeah, but
I didn't know that.
they do
Yeah,
that. They
that's
do
exactly.
that. But for some of them, they don't. They just throw the bones away. They're discarded.
That for me is the horrible thing. Like you shouldn't discard any part of the body. And
But yeah, that's
prosthetics and stuff, you should be pre-agreeing with the family what is going to happen to those prosthetics and extra stuff that don't burn.
yeah. I remember speaking
sure.
of that when I was with Hyena Hell, who used to be a great person on Drunkduck, fantastic member of the community, but she's gone off and does zines now. But I visited her in New Orleans, and we went to toured all the graveyards around New Orleans, and New Orleans has an issue where the water table is rather high. So to bury someone underground is tricky because everything eventually comes to the surface. So they have to usually use like mausoleums and stuff on the surface. But the poor people don't have that option. They have to be buried in the ground. So you can do a tour. You could do a tour of the cemeteries, and you can see people's bones on the surface, and it's the weirdest thing. You can go past someone's grave and see, oh, there's like a prosthetic knee joint, and there's someone's teeth. There's like all these like artificial implants and things that just those come to the surface before bones. But yeah, that's the weirdest thing. That's the weirdest thing.
I can imagine.
It wasn't something I was interested in. They were interested in that, and they took me there to show me.
Yeah, there's I don't know. Oh, please go on, babe.
No, go ahead. I
No, what I was going to say is that the whole issue of the respect that you pay to the dead comes into play with things like that. For example, here in Greece, we have a huge issue with space. Too many dead people, too little space to bury them in. And especially in big urban areas like Athens and stuff, there's a very limited, finite amount of space that you have in cemeteries. And the additional problem is that the Greek Orthodox Church, because having cemeteries is a very lucrative business, it has nothing to do with faith. They have said that it is a sin to cremate people. So there's a lot of controversy around that. Everyone should be buried, or they will not be carried over to the next life, and some bullshit like that, which is like, it's completely bullshit. There is no other Orthodox Christian church that says that sort of thing. Give you an idea. It's just completely a monetary issue that they sort of low-key admit even. And what they have come up with is a terrible way to treat the dead. And it is extremely controversial here in Greece, because they bury the dead for 3 years. And if you are lucky enough to be dissolved down to the bone level, you are the lucky one. If you are not, they take you out on the 3-year mark. You are exhumed, basically. And if you are bones, then the bones are put into a bath and then into a box, and put away in a shelf. If you are not bones, which is mostly the case because the ground is very saturated and the decomposition process doesn't take place as quickly, they basically fold you up like a Barbie doll that needs to fit into a very small place. So they basically completely fold up the dead body into 2 or 3 pieces, and they shove the dead body into a lime pit, more or less, so that it can finish dissolving down to bones. Yeah. And that, of course, is completely against everything that is demanded by the Greek culture when it comes to respecting the dead. And so that's why a lot of people go with cremation anyway, because it preserves the dignity of the deceased. So,
such as it is. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of newer kind of funerary practice. People looking about this idea of the green funerary practice, where people have this idea where they would be in this coffin that's like made out of cardboard and it's got seeds impregnated in it, and then you go into the forest and it'll like grow a tree out of you. But to me, I mean, the fantasy of that idea sounds really good, but in practical terms it wouldn't work as smoothly as that at all. It would be rather horrific. You'd have bits of dead persons spread throughout this all over the place, and animals coming and eating it and pulling it apart, and yeah, it'd be rather revolting. So yeah, that's a myth. I mean, people imagine that it's real and it's possible, but it hasn't been done, it hasn't been approved, and yeah, it's just a fancy idea that was spread through social media. So yeah, if you tried it, it would be rather more grim than the fantasy is there. Like, the fantasy is you break down naturally and the trees will grow up and everything will be, nicey. But yeah, that's not how death works in nature. In nature, the way death works is things are consumed by other things. That's how it works. And the bits and pieces go far and wide. It's one of the actual things that gave rise to the myth of alien vivisection. How the aliens come down and they will kill cattle and they will take out eyeballs and stomachs and all this kind of stuff. So this is a 20th century myth, and it's probably created by the idea of we have a separation of us from the natural world and us from death, because these days we don't experience it much. So the normal person doesn't experience death very commonly, whereas in the past they experience it a lot. So what actually happens is there's no aliens or any of that kind of bullshit, whatever. What happens is these cows, these sheep, whatever, they die of natural causes, as happens, or maybe they're poisoned by a water source or whatever. They die. And then scavenger animals come along and they will go for what they prefer and what's easily accessible to them. So in terms of various birds, that would be eyeballs and tongues, and other creatures, they would be going for livers specifically, things like that are that they like to eat. So and these creatures look like, oh my god, this surgeon dissected this creature, whatever, and it took away these parts specifically. No, this is just natural stuff.
I didn't know that myth existed. Yeah, for sure.
That's where it comes from. Yeah, this whole idea of that cattle are taken away and cut up and operated on by aliens. It's all based on that idea.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So what is going beyond the actual or before that? Have you ever depicted a funeral or anything like that in your webcomics?
No.
Beyond
people have died, but there's never been a funeral in my comic yet that I can remember. Baines, you must have had one.
You'd think, but I think there's only been one character who died off screen, and then I think I ended up resurrecting them on the last page. So I really have to expand.
So Baines Lee.
It was a character based on Mickey from Rocky. He was training Penelope to fight, and he died. He sort of fainted or collapsed during the fight and was taken to the hospital. And then on the last page, he was standing there with everyone else. So apparently he was.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I didn't even have the heart to kill Mickey, the famously dead Rocky character.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
But was that the guy who played the penguin in August Meredith?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
That guy, he's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I mean, I love that. That could be like he died, but that's his ghost there at the end.
It could be. Weirdly enough, I actually the page didn't have it. No, I had him there at first, and then some commenter said, "Hey, I thought he died. I thought Berg died." I called him Berg after Burgess Meredith.
Burgess Meredith, that's it, man.
And then
Not
so I
August.
took the character out. Like I edited the page and took him out, and then I decided to put him back in. But he hasn't been seen since, so we don't know what happened to him.
I like that. I like it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
But,
lovely.
this is inspiring me. I'm going to start killing characters after this podcast.
Start killing all the characters.
Yeah, they're going to start dropping. How about you, Tans? I know you've had some big deaths in yours. But
And a funeral. I remember the funeral too.
It wasn't a funeral, it was a wake. I haven't actually shown any funerals yet. But, and this is like maybe it's not a spoiler, it's like a teaser thing or whatever. It starts with a big funeral, the second volume of Without Moonlight. Not an actual big funeral that happened, I mean, historical. But we're going to see a funeral.
All right.
Yeah, the one that you are referring to was a wake, which is very traditional in Greece, and it still happens. When a person dies, you are supposed to keep that person overnight in the house. Person terms with that person's death, and then the funeral parlor, the people come and take the person away in the morning. So that's the way it should be.
Right.
When my grandmother died in 2002, I remember that we dressed her in her best outfit, and we had her lie on the sofa so that she would be in the living room, and people could come pay their last respects to her. And she looked like she was sleeping, like very peacefully and stuff, because she died in her sleep. And a lot of people did come from the neighborhood, because it's almost like a low-key, not a celebration, of course, and they talk about the dead and all of that. And then they came and took her in, like they brought her coffin in afterwards. Like she was not in a coffin all night. So yeah.
Wow. You know, one of the internet myths a while ago, social media myths, as there are so many, was that in the old days when photography was first invented, what you'd do is, like, if someone died, you'd dress them up and you'd have everyone's, like, you'd have them propped up as if they were still alive, especially with children. You'd have them propped up as if they were still alive, and you have photos of them so you'd remember them as if they were still alive, which never happened. People never did that. They did that when they were really sick, and they would be posed in photos. But after they died, they were not propped up as if they were still alive. They would be dead, reposed and like sleeping, like your grandmother. And they did have photos with them then, but not pretending they were alive. That never happened ever. So if you, there is this social media thing where people will look at these old photos and they'll see people and they go, "Oh my god, that's one of those death photos. Look, I can tell. No, you can't tell. You're an idiot.
Yeah. Now, another thing that is different in like the Greek way to handle the dead is that you don't eat during the wake. That I have seen happens in at least the way movies portray wakes in America. In like that they bring all the food and stuff. You do not eat, but you do drink brandy or have coffee, brandy, some like very very thin biscuits, and that's all you have during the wake, and you eat in the morning after the dead person has been taken away to be prepared. But yeah, and I think that part of the reason that this developed, like to keep the dead person overnight and keep vigil and stuff, was because of the instances of people uh, waking up, like not being actually really dead. I have I don't have the English term in my mind right now, but it's like this death-like condition where you cannot tell when someone is dead and you inadvertently bury them alive and they wake up when they are buried. So in order to combat this, you had 24 hours vigil plus another 24 hours of, the funeral stuff and everything going on. So chances were that they would wake up if they were not actually dead.
Yeah,
so
it happens.
there you have it.
I mean, it can happen when someone wakes up and then they die a bit later. Sometimes,
Yeah.
Rarely. That's what usually happens. But rarely what happens is they wake up and then they're actually alive and they stay alive. But, well, not forever, obviously.
Yeah, but which I find that it is a very nice way to at least have some safeguards, like just in case, in the off chance, this is what happened.
Yeah.
So.
You know what? Like my favorite, not my favorite. I don't really like death myself, but my favorite depiction of mortality was in the sitcom, which was called Scrubs. So this was the best hospital show I've ever seen, like out of all the dramas and everything, and this is a sitcom, because this actually does handle hospitals in the correct way, in that doctors are overworked and nurses are overworked and they've got a lot to do, and no one comes out of this world alive, and everyone is mortal, and they acknowledge that all the time in this show, which is just amazing. And they had this fantastic, oh my god, it was so touching, the death scene of this fellow who was like, everybody loved him. Everybody in the these characters all loved him. It was Brendan Fraser's character, and he was like the relative of one of these characters, and they just all loved him. And he was doing his physicals, and one day it turned out, oh my god, you've actually got this cancer, and it's actually probably not survivable. And that was pretty tragic. I might be remembering this wrong, but a few episodes later, like he came back again, and everyone was going, oh yeah, hi, and saying goodbye to him and this kind of stuff, and basically the whole episode was he was dead the whole time, and no one was really saying goodbye to him. That was just what one character was imagining if he was still alive the whole time, and everyone was really getting ready to go to his funeral, and saying goodbye to him. And it was just, oh my god, that it really made you cry. It was just so sad, but also very happy as well. But yeah, this is a show. Scrubs handles death as a part of life, because in a hospital, that kind of a hospital that it depicts, you have to deal with that. You have to deal with that constantly. So that was a very honest portrayal of that kind of world.
Mm.
Yeah, now that you mention hospitals, when I was training, like doing my practicum for the Red Cross as a first responder, part of what we do, it's obligatory for us to do, is to serve for basically half a year, more or less, at the ER. And basically help out the doctors and the nurses in anything and everything. And the whole point of this is to get accustomed with trauma of all kinds, because you are supposed to be first responder and all that. And also learn a lot of things that you wouldn't otherwise be learning, blah, blah, blah. So there was this one time where I was there where we had to help prep. We were waiting, prep the emergency room for this car accident person that was arriving, still alive. And he basically died in transit. When he came, he was already dead. And the whole thing is that the doctors gathered us around because they were pissed. Like, I didn't see them sad. They were angry. Why? Because this person died due to a car accident because he was riding his motorcycle without a helmet. And he died because he hit his head the wrong way and they couldn't get him to the hospital on time. So they, they bring in the person. He's already dead. The EMTs say, he's dead, but please check, because the EMT is not allowed to proclaim someone dead. A doctor has to do it. So the doctor gathered us all around and said, look at this person. He looked pristine. There was no blood on him. There was nothing crushed, like a person sleeping on a gurney. And he said, look at this guy and look how perfect he is. He could be alive right now. And then he turns his head a little bit, and all of the back of his head was basically bent in. And he said, next time, don't wear your helmet. Make my job easier. He was so pissed. Like he was angry. No, I mean, I'm pretty sure that he was sad that he couldn't do anything. But the biggest thing was this visceral anger that he had. And the shock that we had as trainees, that we had to basically help him take the vitals, no vitals, of course, or anything. And he made us handle this dead person so that we would put on helmets. So, yeah, that was my experience in
Wow.
Very visceral. I mean, Baines, we sort of glossed over you when we talk about like wakes and stuff like that, because you've experienced that yourself. How was your experience of all that kind of stuff?
Well, with my dad, you mean, obviously. I mentioned it on Patreon. Or did I mention it here? I don't, whatever. Yeah, it was heavy, man. I mean, not the wake. The wake was really kind of calm and, I guess, somewhat healing, I suppose. I don't really do my healing that way personally. I do it privately. But it was, to see people who cared about him and stuff like that was good. There were some good experiences there, in a way. Like I said, it wasn't the healing experience for me. That came later. I was with him when he passed away in the moment. That was heavy, and afterwards it was heavy. The whole thing was heavy. It was one of the most significant experiences of my life, probably. It was intense for a while, and then you adjust. I don't know. Slowly, it becomes all right. know. And he kind of
Oh.
went how he wanted to go. I won't go too long about this, but he would talk about death all the time. Like almost every time we talked, the topic would come up. Very funny. My dad was a really funny guy, like great sense of humor and all that stuff. I mean, and he would so often say he doesn't want to suffer. He was really afraid of some debilitating like handicap or illness or something like that. He wanted to go quickly, and as it happened, he did go quickly. So I was super relieved for that. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
That's incredible. Yeah, it's I don't want to force you to relive things that you don't that are
no,
uncomfortable.
I'll say anything. Yeah, it's fine. It's been a very long time.
Yeah. Wow. That's a heavy experience for someone to have in their life. Oh my God.
It was. I was grateful. The thing I mean, I love him, obviously, always. He's one of my favorite guys. I miss him. But I was left with great relief that I got to know him like as an adult, like me being an adult. I was in my 30s. So I'm really like very grateful that it wasn't like my teens or earlier or even my 20s that I got to like interact with him a lot when I was a little bit older because that's a gift, you know, like just for me anyway. Like it was really good to get to like bond with him as an adult, and so, and it was
Yeah.
probably less traumatizing that way, but also you get the experience of all these great conversations we got to have, you know.
Yeah, and you've got the memories of the person, and they say, people live in memories, which is
Yeah,
such an important, aspect of the whole thing.
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that has that informed you and influenced your work at all?
I have some stories in mind that sort of pay tribute to him, but they haven't been created yet. I haven't gotten to that point. I think of these storylines way ahead for the various comic series, but I move so slowly in creating them that it could be a ways off if I ever finish them.
Has it given you any kind of deeper understanding of mortality, though? Not direct influence, like actually a story about death, but like even in comedies and stuff like that. Has it given you like a greater breadth to your understanding of the world, so to speak?
Oh boy, I'm sure it has, but I couldn't really say in what way. Like, I'm sure it's there. Um,
It's
yeah.
fascinating.
Oh, that's a great question. I should have a good answer. But I don't have a good answer for
Well, it's
that.
not an obvious one. So yeah,
No.
this is a broad topic, and it covers a lot of aspects of you know not only your awareness of death and your experience of death, but how death works in society as well. I mean, uh, thinking about most recently, there was an assassination in America of a right wing I don't know, politician or some kind of organizer, something like that, and
Influencer, I would say.
hmm,
Influencer.
some person assassinated them, and that means okay, so people like on these partisan kind of sides of these issues are going either this is the worst thing ever, oh my god, this is so evil, and people are going, yeah, when's the next one are gonna be killed? Because maybe this guy's dead, whatever. But they're also supporting things like gun rights and all this kind of stuff, and they deserve it. But from my perspective, I kind of think that it's never right to assassinate someone, and it's not good for anybody because not only have you directly visited this horrible tragedy onto this person and their family, whatever they believe, you're harming all the causes. So all these like anti anti-right wing causes, left wing causes are harmed as well, because now they're tarred as murderers and supporters of assassinations and stuff like this. So it ups the ante and makes it more likely that they're going to be targeted in a similar way. So it's just a stupid thing. I hate people who support this kind of crap. I just idiots.
Well, the whole narrative that the left wing is responsible sort of collapsed because the killer was just a more right-wing person than the victim. Like, it was right-wing on right-wing violence. So, and the reason was that the killer felt that he was not extreme enough.
Oh, really?
So that was the thing.
That's weird.
Yeah, and it's. I have been going down that rabbit hole. It is a terrible rabbit hole to go down. But in any case, the whole thing was that it was basically turf war or gang war between two factions of the extreme alt-right, neo-Nazi right-wing yes. So that was the thing. That said,
interesting.
I also do not. I feel that killing someone is the easy way out for a lot of things. If you have the guts and if you can do it, that what you should do is make them suffer consequences here in this life. Make them demonstrate that his rhetoric gets him jail time for life, for example, or whatever thing. Consequences. Give them consequences, because a violent death can and always has been glorified in various ways.
Martyrdom,
and it's the same.
Revenge,
Exactly,
things like
and it's
that.
the same way.
Worse. An eye for an eye leaves souls blind, as they say.
Yeah, but it's not just the eye for an eye. It's the whole thing that, and that's why it's stupid for the right wing to murder left wingers in the same vein, in the sense that if you kill someone for their views, and you are actually of the opposing part, because this one was a dud, like it was Nazi on Nazi. Oh no, okay, let's move on. But the whole thing, if you have like a Nazi murdering a left winger, or something like that, what the killer is getting across is that they cannot defeat the ideology, so they defeat the carrier of the ideology by killing them. And that makes the ideology stronger. So you shouldn't do that if you are smart. Of course, when you are that extreme, you are not that smart. So that is also a factor in all these things. So my considering, like, I come from a family that has suffered from political assassination. My grandfather on my mother's side was assassinated for being a person that did not condone extreme stuff. He wanted democracy, so everyone that didn't want democracy piled up on him and killed him. Long story short. And I never got to meet my grandfather, but because my mom kept his memory alive, it's as if I have. He is one of the most influential people in my life. And a lot of the stuff that he didn't get to do, I want to do. So he is more alive now than he has ever been before. So don't murder people. It's not a good thing. No.
Yeah.
Good reason why it's a sin in a lot of religions. It's not a good thing. Yes, do not support that on this Quackcast.
No. And I'm a big fan of big consequences in this life. Give them consequences here. There's no love lost with people like the deceased. The deceased was a terrible person, but make them pay for this terrible thing that they are doing here. Now they are unreachable. What are you going to do?
Exactly. Yeah, they can't be punished for their crimes of what they did. And that's why, like, I won't go into the assassination thing any more than this, but yeah, it's not something I support. What other aspects of mortality are there we can cover quickly? Okay, so there's the idea of that, we are mortal, so how do we handle that? Like, an awareness of mortality sort of comes upon you as you're getting older, these days with us, or younger, as we've said, we sort of hinted at the start of the Quackcast, but how does that change your life? Does that make you more aware of things are temporary and that you should develop much deeper connections to people you know? I mean, that's one of those things. Or does that make you depressed and you think, okay, well, life is sort of meaningless because it ends, and oh my god, the world is sorrow, so.
You go first, Oz.
Well, yeah, so I take to wear very black everywhere and veils, lots of makeup and stuff like that. Yeah, and I keep to the shadows. So, yeah.
Nice.
Play the cure constantly.
Personally, for me, actually, it cheers me up for some reason or other. Like, I'm never going to commit suicide. I'm never going to pursue my death. But the fact that there is an exit from this existence for me is freeing. Because, yeah, I do believe that there are better things beyond this life if you cultivate enough to be positive enough to receive them. But even if there aren't, even if I'm wrong, even if there is nothing beyond this existence, it is a nice thing to consider that there is a point where you are done, you can rest, and none of this will matter. And if you have no regrets, then it's relief, at least for me. It keeps me going. It keeps me going. That, yeah, I want to work so that when the exit does happen, I feel that I am better than I arrived, and that whatever I touched in this world hopefully is better than if I wasn't there to touch it. So, yeah.
That's beautifully said. Yeah. I feel that way too.
So that's how Baines is getting out of this by going.
No, I do. Let me listen to a couple of good answers, and I'll just go with that. No, I do feel the same though. I think about death a lot, to be honest with you, and similar to you, Tans. Like, I'm in no rush. I enjoy my life a lot, but it's a great relief to think about the fact that it eventually will end.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have felt that way 10 or 20 years ago, probably, but yeah, that's definitely how I feel now. And,
you know what? The way I feel is like, it's too bad we're not immortal. It's too bad.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Really
What
shits me.
Do you really want to haunt this place forever?
Of course. That
Oh
would
my
be the
God,
ultimate.
no.
If I had a special power, that would be it. If I had three wishes or whatever, that would be it. Immortality.
Oh, that's a huge mistake. Don't make that wish.
Yeah, don't make that.
You need to watch more, look at more stories. And
that would be the prime one, because I think most fiction is sort of surrounded by the idea that okay, so immortality is impossible, so we have to make this an unappealing thing. So that's the whole point of those stories. because immortality is impossible, so they make it unappealing. But there are creatures that are almost like versus humans, they are sort of almost immortal. Like there's trees that live thousands of years. There's various animals that live like into the 200s, turtles and things like that. Just go on and on and on. Things like lobsters. Yeah, lobsters can keep living until it costs them too much energy to molt, and then they die when they're trying to molt because the energy needed for that is more than their bodies can supply. It's like a sun. Suns last like billions of years, like maybe like several billion years. A sun will last until it takes more energy to keep on producing fusion. So a sun reaches the end of its life when it gets to the iron stage, when it's trying to fuse iron, because fusing iron costs a lot more energy than it produces. So the sun starts to die when it gets to the iron stage. That's the death of that. So everything, including suns and black holes, are mortal, but compared to us, they're more immortal.
Yeah. By the same comparison, there are like fruit flies that two fruit flies would be immortal. Never die.
Well, there was this great story that this person wrote about dogs, and it was from the perspective of dogs, and they've said, look, okay, this is like a really sad thing because like I've been with this human for all my life. My father was with this human, and my mother and my grandfather and my great grandfather, and we've all been with this human. They were with them until they died, and now it's my turn. I'm with this human, and this human, I'm reaching the end of my life, and this human is also reaching the end of their life as well. And I'm amazed that I've reached the same road as this person who is seemingly immortal and has been, for alive during generations of my people. So that's interesting. Well, there it is. That's Mortality, guys, in Quackcast number 757.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Bye forever.
That would be very anticlimactic, though.
Life and death, life and death. It's a little comic about life and death.